Welcome to the Compassionate Corner podcast, where we share stories of resilience, cancer, and hope. I'm your host, Roya Soleimani Winner, and this podcast is a voice for the International Society for Children with Cancer, ISCC. In each episode, you'll hear from survivors, caregivers, and medical professionals who have firsthand experiences with cancer. They share their journeys, their lessons learned, the moments of unexpected joy and hope. And for you, whether you're facing a similar battle or supporting someone who is, or simply seeking to understand these experiences, you've come to the right place. Thank you for being with us as we explore these extraordinary stories of resilience and hope right here in the Compassionate Corner. And I'm so excited because our guest today is Nanaz K. Nanaz, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you.
And if okay with you, I'll give our audience, a little bit of your background, and then we'll dive into our conversation.
Sounds good.
All right. So Nanaz K. was born in Tehran, Iran, and raised in Utah after her parents transferred to the University of Utah to pursue their respective master's degrees in 1986. She graduated with a bachelor's degree in political science and a certificate in international relations in 2000. She was the recipient of the J.D. Williams Scholarship and a Hinckley Institute White House intern in the year 2000. She is currently a senior associate general counsel at United Optum. She is also a creative writer in the genre of poetry and received her Master of Fine Arts degree at New York University, NYU, in 2016. She's also a courageous cancer survivor, and we're so excited to welcome her today to the Compassionate Corner. Nanaz, welcome again, and thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for such a nice intro.
Of course. Well, let's dive in. Tell us first a bit about you. And we learned a little bit about you in the bio, but share a bit more and we'll take it from there.
Sure. So I came to the United States when I was 5. I was in Iran. I'm a revolution baby. I was born in 1979, and I was in Iran until 1985, as you said. So, 3 or 4 years into the war. So, as many of us have, I have an immigration story, and it's a beautiful one. It's an interesting one. Um, Grew up in Salt Lake City, just outside Salt Lake City, Utah, and was a young child who was much of a tomboy. I grew up, playing outside all the time, and I love the seasons in Utah. I was a skier, and when I was in college, my parents moved to Southern California. I have a younger sister. She was having a bit of a hard time in Utah because she was an immigrant, and she was having a hard time in a predominantly homogeneous
Yeah.
Mormon culture. So my parents relocated here to be around Iranians and be around the culture and feel a little bit more at home as immigrants. And so we moved to Southern California. I came shortly thereafter. I graduated college, and we've been here 24 years now. So I've been here longer than I was in Utah. So it's dual home now. Southern California's
Yeah.
home.
And you
Yeah,
went to college in Utah. How was the
I
experience
did.
there growing up for you? I mean, 4 or 5 years old to immigrate to a brand new country. I have a now 6-year-old actually as of today. So I
Yeah.
know, it's a tender age. How was that experience for you?
I my dad came before us, and he was actually at UC Berkeley before he transferred to the University of Utah, and he came before us, and I just wanted to see my dad. So I just remember I just was really eager just to see my dad and be reunited with my dad. But I do remember a lot of things. I mean, I remember the war. I remember being in Turkey for over a month because we couldn't get a visa to get out during that time. It was really difficult. I remember the lines at the embassy, the
Mm.
US embassy, and going there early in the morning with my mom. I remember coming to the United States and not speaking English. And being in first grade, my mom and dad didn't want me to get held back, so they said, we'll teach her English and work with the teacher, but she's going to first grade, so I didn't go to
Wow.
kindergarten. I showed up in a first grade class not knowing a word of English, really, except for the basics.
I
And my
just got
mom,
chills because I can imagine.
yeah.
That's the strength of your parents and the strength they knew that you had, but that must have been a lot.
Yeah, my mom would come after school and get extra lessons. I had a wonderful first grade teacher. I'll never forget. Her name was Mrs. Davis, and she cared so much about me. I was back then, there was not any immigrants. I was the only like immigrant child there. And so she worked with my mom. My mom would come every day after school and say, what, lessons do we need to teach her tonight? And I remember our little apartment, we had the alphabet and the phonetics and everything on the wall taped. And so we'd have school after school. And, I learned really quickly, but my parents will joke, my mom will joke and say, you used to say, these people don't know human beings' language. They can't speak Farsi. And so, we all have these stories. All of us have a
Yeah.
different story. And that was our story. But, it was difficult growing up in Utah. It was beautiful and it was difficult. It's the dualities of life. It was beautiful because it was a beautiful, down to earth. And we grew up in the outdoors, and my parents were very much into the outdoors. So it was beautiful in that sense, but there was very difficult. You'd get the typical experience of the Iranian immigrant where they called you a terrorist and, all these random things. But I was really, really social. So for me, it was a little bit different. I was very extroverted. I was very social. I played a lot of sports. So, I didn't have the challenges that other kids may have had, like my sister did, where she was more introverted, more shy.
Mhm.
I really fought for myself. I was a fighter. So, that you could tell me something, but I would, fire right back and defend myself. So, the challenges make you stronger, but they also have an impact in your life. So
Yeah.
yeah, that was part of the experience.
Well, that fighting spirit, right? That light, that spark, you've got it still, and we'll talk about that more. How was it, then keeping your Iranian cultural, experience alive? Was that very much in your home? Was it through food, music, culture? How did you keep that bridge going?
Yeah. Again, like, yes, in our home, my mom wouldn't speak to us in English. She
Yeah.
said, you're going to learn English on your own just fine, but you need to speak Farsi in the house. So even if we spoke English, she wouldn't respond until we spoke in Farsi. So even my sister that was born here speaks Farsi fluently. And, she'd get all the books from Iran up to, I think, third or fourth grade. She taught us to read and write. So that was very strong in our home. And Utah's kind of an interesting place. There's this tight knit Iranian community.
Yeah.
And the University of Utah, it's a special place because they have a fantastic Middle Eastern program. At least they did when we were there. Um, and they had a Persian studies program. So we had this very small, I mean, I think it was like 1,500, 2,000 people, Iranians, but we had Persian New Year, we had Charshamba Suri, we had Sizde Bedat, and we all knew each other.
Yeah.
And, we learned everything at home. And it was very much, a important thing to maintain our culture, and our community was really strong, even though it was small.
Yeah.
So that was really special.
I grew up in Stockton, California, which unlike some of the bigger hubs like San Jose here in Northern California or LA and Orange County down in Southern California, very similarly, we were a small, like small but mighty, sort of very
Yeah.
connected, very small. And we were maybe like 150 people, right?
Wow.
That are Iranians. And so our season, our is, very, very tight knit in a good way. So I'm glad that you had that experience and that resilience and that strength, like you were saying, that fighting spirit. um, Take us now into your adult life. You're a practicing attorney. You've established yourself in Southern California. And let's shift a bit, if you don't mind, to the health journey and sort of what you were experiencing and when you knew that maybe it's time to get something checked out, or walk us through that experience.
Yeah, yeah. So, you know, those experiences come back later in life to serve you to a certain degree, right? So I was 39, and I had a lump. I had a lump in my breast that I felt for a few months. And 39, you don't get mammograms. So I went to my gynecologist and I said, I have this lump and I would like to get a mammogram. And she says, oh, it's probably nothing. And she says, have you been drinking a lot of coffee? Caffeine will do that to you. And I said, no more than my regular amount of coffee. And she says, yeah, it'll probably go away after a while. And I said, well, I understand, but I would like a mammogram. And so she said, okay. She's like, it's probably nothing, but here's your orders for mammogram. So based on, what she was telling me, I didn't take it, to heart yet. And I went and got a mammogram. And I was in the mammogram room, and the tech was doing some pictures, and she went in the back, and she was gone for a really long time.
Oh,
And that's when started getting very, very nervous. And so something we didn't talk about, but I have a strong spiritual background. A lot of spiritual leaders in my family, not
well,
formal leaders, but people that really exemplified spirituality for me. It wasn't a religious home, but my grandparents, my grandfather, my mother's father, and my grandmother on my dad's side, very spiritual people.
yeah.
And I remember like it was yesterday, I was sitting in that sort of, it kind of looks like a locker room. And I just felt my grandparents sitting next to me. And
Mm,
they said, it's going to be okay. It was something. I just got this energy. It was something, but you're going to be okay. And so that's when I just knew. And she kept coming back and forth. And she said, we're going to do an ultrasound, and the doctor's going to come in. I said, okay. So we did the ultrasound, and, there's something, unfortunately, physicians and people in the medical practice are just like all other human beings. And there are some that are not so good with bedside manner. And I unfortunately got that experience
oh,
right away. And I basically had the radiologist and the nurse that was taking, or the tech that was taking
yeah.
the x-rays, having a discussion about my tumors potentially, just as if I wasn't in the room. And just
Very
going,
also like
yeah,
mechanically
just
almost.
mechanically. Oh, yeah, we see these a lot. Oh, last week I saw some of these, and they were pretty bad, and they were up in the armpit. And so I said to them, I said, excuse me, what's going on?
Right
She
here.
said, oh, you'll get we'll send it. We can't talk to you. And this was the part that floored me. We can't talk to you. We'll send it to your doctor. They'll discuss the results for you. And
Oh
I
my
said,
God.
should I be worried? And she says, oh, yeah. I mean, it was flooring. Yeah. So then it really hit me, and I was pretty much in shock from then onward. We had a lot of other bumps in the road. We had, after that, my same gynecologist who got the results told us the wrong results.
The one who
She,
wasn't going to let you get the mammogram until you advocated for yourself.
yeah, she told me it was a stage 0, non-invasive, and I didn't have to worry. I could just go to a regular surgeon, general surgeon. They'd just take it right out. I didn't need any chemo. And she referred me to a physician who did hernias. And so I was like, okay. And I didn't want to worry my parents, and so I didn't tell them any of that until after. And I told my mom, and my mom said, send me the results. I want to see the results. And
Yeah.
so I sent her the results, and she sent them to my cousin, who's a physician. And I was going on a trip this was a week before my 40th birthday. So I was planning on going to Mexico. And before I was leaving for my trip, my mom said, I'm going to make an appointment to get a second opinion
Hmm.
from a oncologist at City of Hope. And I got really upset, and I was like, why do I need to see an oncologist? I'm fine. I don't need to see an oncologist.
They told me I'm fine, you know? Yeah.
And they told me I'm fine, and she didn't want to say anything to me before my trip. And she got us an appointment, to the top breast surgeon and oncologist in City of Hope. And so, we had a roller coaster ride.
Oh,
I remember, when they told me the diagnosis, um, I just wasn't even there in the room. And physically, my body was there. But when I was hearing the words of invasive, aggressive cancer, um, I don't remember anything else that the surgeon said to me. So yeah, I mean, that's how we got to the diagnosis.
what you're describing, I mean, the roller coaster. And thank you for being so open and sharing that with us in this
Hmm.
space, because I think the one of the number one things I take away from this conversation and so many that we've had in this space, Nanas, is that you have to be your own advocate, right? Like you said, doctors are incredible. They're also people. Mistakes can be made, but you know, if we've heard other stories. We had Mazra Brani on, and his sister had asked for a mammogram, where they're like, oh, it's not a big deal, come back in a year. And by that point it had taken a very dark turn. And so at your age you would never expect something like that to happen, but you want to receive care if it is happening. And so
Yeah.
good on your mom, and for pushing, and for you to being open. And I think that sort of being in the presence of your grandparents, like you described, almost being like held by them,
Hmm.
how did that strength also carry you through, or that spiritual energy that you were bringing sort of carry you through those following weeks, months, days, right? Because the experience you described of sort of physically being there, but everything almost being blank, is another thing we've heard a lot. And I think a lot of people share in that experience. It's just complete shock. What
Yeah.
were the days, and then the sort of follow up after that? What was that?
Yeah. So it's a roller coaster ride. I mean, spiritually, I had, again, physicians, people in the medical profession are like humans. I had angels as well. I mean, after
Mm,
that, my surgeon at City of Hope was the most amazing woman I've, ever met in the medical profession.
yeah.
I couldn't make a decision when it came to whether I have a lumpectomy or a double mastectomy. And so I was going back and forth and I was having a really hard time. And she pushed to have my surgery scheduled within like a couple weeks, which, is unheard of these days. Um, she gave me her cell phone number. I mean, she was the head of breast oncology at City of Hope, and she gave me her cell phone
Wow.
number. Um, so there's beautiful things you see where you think, wow, there's, angels watching over me. She was one of those people. I mean, I called her a few times, just saying, I don't know what to do. And we asked her, we said, what would you do? If you, she was a younger woman, she's probably in her 40s herself. And she said, I would have a double mastectomy. And so, those people were signs of the guidance that you know that there's people watching over you, whether it be in
Yeah.
this world or in another world. Um, and also, you have really dark, deep days that you don't really share with people because you don't want to put that burden on them. That's another thing. It's this duality. Like I'm a very much independent person. So for me to ask for help or have other people help me or to feel like, oh my gosh, this is hurting my parents or my family. And nobody made me to feel that way. It was just my
Of
own
course.
perception. It's a lot. So there's nights that you get down on your knees and you don't know what what's going on and you break down, and then there's nights where you feel hopeful, and it's a lot of up and down,
Yeah.
which doesn't really end after the cancer goes
Yeah.
away, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's very severe. It's like grief, right? I mean, it's very severe. You have a loss to a certain degree of who you were before and who you are after. And so people deal with that loss, and you have your various stages. I was angry for a long time.
Worse. Understandable.
You're sad. There's other ramifications for women in this situation that are beyond cancer.
Yeah.
And so, it's an ongoing journey, but yes, your faith definitely helps you bear that pain a little bit better. For
Yeah.
me personally, I think.
And you mentioned the angels, right? Like your doctor, your surgeon. Who in your life too were the people that really held you during that time? And I can only imagine, right? I'm similarly an independent person, so it's really hard, but we also need others, right? Especially in those vulnerable moments in life. So how did your community show up for you, or your close family? How was that experience?
Oh my gosh. I mean, immeasurably, right? I mean, it's the part where you're just like,
Yeah.
no, no, I don't want anyone to know because I don't want the attention. But, you also feel obligated to share the story in case somebody else is going through it.
Yes.
So I kind of didn't know whether I tell people or I don't tell people, but I told them. And one of my family members said, it's important if you can to talk about this so other people can reach out to you if they need you. So it was insane. I mean, the amount of care, I mean, my mom took care of me, my dad took care of me, my stepdad took care of me, my sister, um, friends. I mean, the amount of flowers that showed up at in our living room after my surgery, I was just blown away from
Yeah.
friends and friends that I hadn't talked to in so long, and just people showing up. You know, we did a breast cancer walk after all this, and we raised thousands of dollars of just friends, you know, donating. And so it's amazing. I mean, you see, that's the thing with life, right? You see these moments of absolute darkness, and then you see this incredible light. And so it's this duality that, you know, is pretty incredible to watch after the fact. You know,
Yeah,
when you're in it, you're like, ah.
of course.
um but after the fact, you know, you kind of see everything full circle.
And thank you for being here to talk about it, right? Because to your family member's point, you talking about it is helping others who maybe aren't going through it in this exact moment, or they have a loved one who is going through it, and understanding how to navigate and just sort of know how to show up for people. One thing I did want to ask you is, the obviously showing up and helping or being an advocate and going on the cancer walk and raising money are all great ways. That sounds like the helpful things people were doing. What sorts of things should someone not say to someone who is, young and experiencing cancer and, sharing it? What would be an
Yeah.
unhelpful sort of thing for someone to say or
Yeah.
or did say while you were
Yeah.
in the throes of it?
So what you hear a lot, and I don't know if it's a breast cancer thing or it's just people, breast cancer is not a big deal
Yeah.
anymore. You know, oh my gosh, they have all the cures, and you're going to be totally fine. Um, because those people haven't gone through,
Yeah.
you know, a double mastectomy or coming face to face with your own mortality, or
Yep.
you know, chemotherapy, losing your hair, you know, not, you know, in my case, you know, being told that you can't carry a child. I mean, these things are pretty severe. And so,
Yeah.
you know, somebody, I remember said, oh, it's like breast cancer is like getting a cold nowadays. I thought to
Oh,
myself, wow,
no, no,
you,
no.
I know. So I mean, I wouldn't say anything back. There was one thing that was really, I mean, it got to a point where I thought, okay, this person, and it was a really distant, it was like a social media friend. I mean, it was somebody I'd probably seen like a couple times socially, nobody I was close to.
Yeah.
And, you know, she is one of these, had, you know, anti-vax, very
Yeah.
like, joined that group of natural medicine. And she would send me these videos after I posted, and it was for the cancer walk, I think. And after I posted about, and I lost my hair, and I posted about it, and she sent me all these videos about how chemotherapy will kill you.
Oh, no.
As I'm going through chemotherapy, mind you,
Actively. And it is
actively.
fighting against the disease.
And I
Yeah.
didn't say anything to her, and I just kind of was like, you know, it's just not worth, this person obviously is in a different world than I am. And then she really got aggressive about it and kept sending me things. And oh, COVID happened. This is what happened. COVID happened. And, you know, I was talking about people that are going through chemotherapy or immunocompromised, and, you know, for
Yeah.
people to be really careful about vaccinations and this. And then she went off about the anti-vaccination movement. And then I finally said, you know, I have to tell you, um, you have no idea what this experience is like for people in this situation. And
Yeah.
it's probably not good to be giving advice when you have not experienced something yourself, right?
Yeah.
And so, or you're not a physician or medically trained, you know, I just, I don't think that's safe. So those are the things. Or, you know, and I know people, a lot of people come from a good place. So I don't,
Yeah.
you know, I would just in one ear out the other. But, you know, acknowledging someone's pain is
Yeah.
something that, you know, we also culturally, I don't know if we're very good at yet. And all of us want to make people feel better. So we're like, you know, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
But it's not fine. And it's not
Oh,
fine for a long time. And so, it's good to just be there and listen to people and ask them how they're feeling. Sometimes we don't want to sort of uncover that onion,
yeah.
but you know, if you want to be there for someone that's going there, just say, "How are you doing with all this? This is a lot."
It's a lot. Acknowledging that it's a lot without
Hmm.
trying to paint over the scaffolding or make it seem like it's not, because it is like you talked about duality a lot in our conversation today. It's so true. You can have hope and it can still suck, right? You can
Yeah.
have this desire to, you're fighting for tomorrow, but today is exhausting, right? And this whole thing, no, the two things can be true. And so I'm hearing about, you're saying showing up for people, checking in with them, like, really, how are you? We had one woman on our show who was diagnosed after her son was like 6 or 7 months old. And so everyone in the family kept wanting to come around and change diapers and give bottles and do all of those helpful things. But she was like, I'm here. I want to change his diaper. I may not have a lot of energy, but
Yeah.
I want to give him the bottle. Like, thank you, but no thank you, you know? And so that there's a fighting spirit there. And everyone, like you said, there's good intentions or cultural entanglements there. But my hope is that people hear this and know that, like, it's okay just to say, hey, this is a lot. How are you?
Yeah.
Are you doing it? What
Yeah,
are you doing?
absolutely.
Even offering. That's the other part too. Like, even saying, like, how can I help you puts the onus on you to give an answer. Whereas, like, can I bring you dinner this week? Are there any easy, would that sort of thing be helpful too in that environment, in that moment?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for me, it was also hard because you fluctuate between like, I need help and then I don't want anyone to help me.
Yes.
Right. So it's hard because you're just like, oh my gosh, I feel really lonely or depressed and nobody really knows what's going on. And then you're like, oh, I'm tired of people like trying to take care of me. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
it's not black and white. It's pretty complicated. But like what you said, I remember I had a neighbor that I heard it just wave to and say, hello here and there, who just sent me like a DoorDash. Like she's like, you know what? Here's just like, this DoorDash gift card. Do you go and get dinner whenever you feel like it? Like it was just like, it was a small thing, but it was just like, 'cause it was such a kind gesture.
Yeah.
Um, but if you come to someone like me and you're like, what can I do? And I'm just like, nothing, thanks.
Yeah. Thanks. I'm
Like,
good.
do you know what I mean? Like I'm
I'm
good.
good. Or if someone brought me a DoorDash gift card, I would be very, very
Yeah, or
happy about
someone just
that. It's
text you and
practical.
just say, yeah, I remember I had a girlfriend that would text me almost every day. Just thinking about you. I'm just thinking about you. And not like, how are you doing? Or just if, I'm here if you want to talk to me. I'm here if you feel like just venting. So those things are pretty powerful.
Really powerful because you then
Mhm.
realize you're not alone. It can
Yeah.
feel lonely, but you aren't alone.
Yeah. And the other thing that's not helpful, I forgot.
Yeah.
Everyone's like natural remedies, right? Like if you
Mm.
do this and if you eat this plant and if you take this supplement and you have to do this and you have to change your lifestyle like it's like just I'm already bombarded with all the medical information that I have to,
Yeah.
consume. And I remember and my current husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, was really helpful because I'd say, I don't want to go and Google. I don't want to Google anything because that's a downward spiral.
Yeah.
I don't want to go and research all the medical information that they're giving me. You go. I
Yeah.
trust whatever you summarize and bring back to me and tell me, what the options are and what the risks are and what the outcomes are. So
Wow.
he'd go and read like PubMed and all these like
Yes.
terrible journals that, are hard to even digest. And be like, okay, if we do this, if we do that, like, so that was helpful for me. I think everyone has a different path, but I highly recommend anyone that gets this diagnosis does not go and Google anything. That's what medical professionals are for, is to ask
Yeah.
questions. Uh,
And a trusted loved one, right? To, like,
yeah.
go in and do that digging because otherwise we can fall down a rabbit hole naturally. And you're already processing emotionally all of this
Yeah.
information. So, how great that he was able to provide that during such a, uneasy and difficult time. To have that sort of grounding is really powerful.
Yes. It's
So,
amazing.
bring us to now. What does life look like now on the other side? I know it can't, like you said, it doesn't end when the cancer heals. Like, bring us into your world and your sort of perspective on life and love and hope, where you're
Mhm.
sitting now.
So it's still a roller coaster
Yeah.
ride. So I wish I could like make it flowery.
Nope. This is about real talk
But
here. So,
yeah, but in a different way. I think it's not traumatic like it was then, right?
yeah.
But there is PTSD that sort of follows you in these things. It's the same PTSD that you have as a child that like experienced war, right?
Oh,
Now, when I am watching the television and I see war in other places and children suffering, that triggers in me, right? And I that to you feel deeply and you feel a lot of emotions around it. So
yeah.
it's the same thing, every time I go to the doctor, I'm worried. Is it going to come back? Am I going to get cancer somewhere else? I have a pain in my toe, and I'm like, is it cancer? Like, so there's a lot of PTSD, and there's a lot of things that you still carry, and from a fear perspective that you really have to work through. You have to
Yeah.
breathe through whatever helps you. For me, I have to go back to, like, spirituality and breathing and meditation and things like that, um, to ground me and to just sort of bring me back into the present moment so I don't go backwards or,
Yeah.
fear the future. Um, but life is beautiful. I mean, I'm not right now. It's a blessing. I have my son. I have my husband. You know, I always wanted to be a mom. So for me, I always say worse than the cancer diagnosis was being, told that you can't carry your own child.
Yeah.
But we were able to, luckily, I was very blessed that I had embryos before, and so I was able to have our own child through a surrogate. And so that was a blessing. And so, it changes. So, when you're in the depth of this, just know there's light on the other side. And I always tell people, I said, you'll get through it. It will be really hard, but you'll get through this. Uh, and, it's important to be honest, but it's also important to be hopeful because there's light on the other side. It just sometimes takes a lot of going through the darkness to get there, but there's
Yeah.
always light on the other side.
And that darkness gets darker in some places and might get lighter in others. But to your point, there's always light, and you're here. And we're so happy that you're here with us to talk about the experience on us because again, you going back to what you said, that the unhelpful things that people were saying, right? Like I think people understand this at some very distant level from their own experience. And so they can't sort of access their humanity. But if they think for a moment, like, that's a really, like, this is a human being who's 40 years old, going through something really challenging. Like you said, all the implications that come. This is not like having a cold. I mean, that is the most egregious thing I've ever heard. But even the
Yeah.
like, oh, yeah, there's all the cures now. Like, it's not a band aid that goes on. Like, there's so much in there. So, showing up for people, seeing that light even when it's dark. So many lessons and takeaways from what you shared with us today. And I'm just wondering, is there anything else you want to leave the podcast with as we sort of wrap up? Any other sort of ideas or reflections or memories you want to share?
Um, I just, take moments for yourself, breathe. It's okay if you don't want to see anybody. It's okay if you just want to, you know, be in your own sadness for a while.
Mhm.
It's okay to feel sorry for yourself. It's okay not to, want to be a cancer fighter, for the rest of your life. Or it's okay if you don't want to hear anything about cancer for the rest of your life. Everything is your experience is your experience. And to honor and respect that is the most important lesson for me. Also, be your own advocate. I mean, I never really advocated for myself. Um, and I learned that if you don't like a doctor, or if you don't get a good feeling, or if you have any doubts about anything, trust your own gut and intuition, above anything else, because that will save you, in a lot of ways. So that's my only last piece of advice.
It's
But thank you
powerful.
for having me.
Thank you for coming and opening up about all of these experiences, about the cancer that you experience, about that, what it looks like on this side, right? It's not unicorns and rainbows. Like you said, it's like a pain in the toe, a visit to the doctor. So I'm here if there's ever anything that I can do, if you ever want to talk. And I'm grateful. I hope everyone can join me in thanking Nanas for her time today. And thanks again for joining us on the Compassionate Corner. It's been awesome
Thank
working with you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all so much for joining us. The Compassionate Corner podcast is produced by the International Society for Children with Cancer. I'm your host, Roya Soleimani Winner. And a special thanks to the incredible ISCC team, our producer, Susan Shahidi, and technical director, Sogol Nikumaram, and our amazing editor, Sharsad Sabit. Music is by artist Sina Sarlak. And now at the close, we want to emphasize that the opinions expressed by the host, that's me, and guests on this podcast are not medical advice. While we strive to provide valuable insights and information, it is important to understand that the views shared here are personal opinions and experiences. We highly recommend consulting with healthcare professionals or qualified experts for personalized advice. Thanks again for spending time with us in the Compassionate Corner. We look forward to seeing you real soon.